Hey there, welcome to the divorce process. You have taken a really important step in getting to the next chapter of your life. And this can be a step of empowerment and transformation so long as you don't let the process itself consume you and wear you down. And the number one place that people let that happen is when they don't have clear expectations of or appropriate expectations of how long this process can actually take. I'm sure that if you could snap your fingers and get this done right now, you would, and I would certainly do it for you as well, but that's just not realistically how it happens. Some divorces can be very quick, and by quick, it's all relative because when I say quick, I mean like 2 to 3 months. That's a quick divorce. Other divorces can take years. In this video, I'm going to break down for you the different things that can happen in a divorce that will control how long it might take so that you have a better expectation of the process so that you can keep yourself centered and focused. If you get out of whack in this process, if you think things should be done when realistically they can't be done yet, then you're going to start making this an emotional journey. And the more emotional you get through this, the worse your decision making is going to be. And that is actually going to prolong the process as well. So let's sit tight and look at the process itself so we can understand what to expect. All right, the first step in your case is going to be the onboarding. The onboarding is where some really important things happen. First, you're going to meet with your attorney and your paralegal, and this call is going to be probably 30 to 60 minutes, might be 90 minutes if your case is more complex. And what are you going to discuss in this call? Well, you're going to go over the facts of your case, and that's going to be everything from when were you married to when did you get separated, the children involved, the assets involved, and the different players involved, namely your spouse. And you and your attorney are going to discuss the different ways you can go about getting this case done. The fastest divorces happen by agreement. So if you want to get divorced in 60 to 90 days, you and your spouse are going to have to agree on everything in order to avoid the whole litigation court thing. So let's start from that place. What happens after the onboarding and where do you go from there? All right, let's open up the whiteboard here. And let me see if I can do this for you. Okay. So the first thing that's going to happen in your case is called the onboarding. And the onboarding is where you meet with your attorney and your paralegal, and they're going to learn about the facts of your case. And that's going to be everything from when were you married, the children involved, the assets involved, where you are in the process itself with your spouse. So the fastest divorces are the ones where there's agreement on everything. So let's go from that place because I want to stay optimistic. I want to get this done for you as quickly as possible while also making sure that you don't get the short end of the stick. But you're going to have to make some decisions on the length of the stick, if you will, depending on how quickly you want to get this done. So after the attorney and you do the onboarding, you're going to talk about how are you starting this case. If it's going to be by agreement, then the next step that the attorney is going to want to do is something called the financial affidavit. The financial affidavit is a document that's about 10 pages long, and you lay out every single aspect of your financial picture. So that's going to be your income, your expenses, your assets, your liabilities. And that's going to give the attorney a complete picture on what they need to put in the proposal with the other side. And they'll get back on the phone with you, talk through the financial affidavit, make sure that they have a clear understanding of it, and then talk through custody issues with you as well, make sure that they have a clear understanding of those and what your agreement is going to be with the other side. And then from there, they're going to put together a proposal. Okay, so what's the timeline between this to this? The timeline here is usually, because the financial affidavit, this is where the ball is going to be thrown into your court. I would say is 7 to 14 days. Now, if you really want to get this done quickly, you can usually get it done in a couple of days, but depending on how complicated your asset situation is, it might take you a little longer, a little shorter. Depends on whether or not you're a procrastinator. This is an emotional process, so not everybody wants to go through this really meticulous document that outlines all this stuff, and it's going to bring up memories about your marriage and a bunch of other stuff. So sometimes people put this off, but the ball is in your court at this point. So 7 to 14 days, and then you talk to your attorney again, and you put together a proposal. Sometimes you can shorten this period, and the proposal, the attorney can work on the proposal while you're doing the financial affidavit, and the financial affidavit can just be a due diligence aspect of this, where the attorney just needs to make sure that they have a clear understanding before the proposal goes out the door. But let's talk about, okay, between the financial affidavit and the proposal, how long does that take? Well, attorney, you're not the only client. That's one aspect of it. So the attorney can't just immediately jump into doing your proposal. There's other issues that often come up for attorneys. They have to address court for other clients. Sometimes there's emergencies. So let's build in a little time to give the attorney the opportunity to draft this. Now, you're probably also going to want a paralegal to be drafting this rather than the attorney, because it's going to be a lot cheaper that way. So there's going to have to be a period of the paralegal drafting it, the attorney reviewing it, paralegal making any final changes. That back and forth can add some time as well. I think in a well-oiled law firm, this period here should be between 7 and 14 days as well. So what do we have so far? We have between 14 and 28 days, between 2 and 4 weeks. Now let me see if I can erase all this or something else. Just bear with me, folks. All right, so let's talk about what happens next in the situation. So you have the proposal. After you have approved the proposal, it's got to get approved by the other side. So you're sending it to the other side. Sent to other side. And that can be done, that's quick. The proposal's drafted. The ball is in your court at this point. But when you do get the proposal, you're going to have to make sure it's right. And there could be some back and forth between you and the attorney on getting things right. So let's just, to be safe, add another 7 days here. I think that is fair. So now total, we have, I think we're at 3 to 5 weeks is what it takes to get out to the other side. Now, once it's in the other side's hands, things are a little out of control for us at this point. How long is it going to take? How long is the other side going to sit on it, if you will? Well, I think if they're in agreement, depends, how complicated things are. But if they're in agreement, I would say 1 to 4 weeks is the amount of time that it's going to take them to get this back to you. And so at this point, we're out 4 to 9 weeks from our onboarding. And let's take a look at what is our next step. So they sent to the other side. We have the other side. They've signed it. Everybody has signed it. And so the docs are signed. And what's the next step? Filing and scheduling. So filing and scheduling, And what happens here is that we get the whole case filed and request your final court date. Well, we don't have control over the judge's calendar. So the judge's calendar is really going to dictate how fast things happen from here. And first, we got to allow a little bit of administrative room for the law firm to get the docs filed. So the paralegal's got to review everything, make sure that everything is perfection, and then they can file it. So let's give the we're gonna keep using weeks. So I think better. I was gonna say 3 to 4 days, but I think it's better that we talk in terms of weeks to just keep things nice and clean here. So we'll say 1 week to get it filed and scheduled, and then the last thing is the prove up. That's what the final court date is called. Final date. There's really only one court date in an agreed divorce. So the question is, from filing to prove up, how long is that going to be? Again, that depends on the judge's calendar. And so it can be anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks out. It's also going to depend on your availability and your attorney's availability. So we have here, let's see, can we zoom out a little bit? So this is the total timeline here from married to divorced is going to be, and if we add this all up, that we totaled it here, 4 to 9 weeks, 5 to 10 weeks, 7 to 16 weeks. So 7 to 16 weeks is your agreed divorce. Now, what happens if it's not agreed? Let's dive into that. Where can this go off the rails? Well, let's take a look at a couple places here. Usually, if it's going to go off the rails, it's going to be right here when it's sent to the other side, and they just sit on it. And we're looking at this 4-week period here, and it's ticking and it's talking, and you're saying enough is enough, and they don't want to agree to anything, and something has to be done. Well, at this point, if you want there to be movement, the case has to be filed and served. And now we're in a litigated case. At any point in a litigated case, the matter can settle, and we can just jump down from filed and served to prove up or to scheduling. So we can just jump to that place at any point in the litigated case. So filing and service, what happens next is the appearance of the other side. And that is not the physical appearance. That is the it's the appearance and answer. So they have to file an appearance and answer, which is a special document, and they have 30 days to do it. We're going to stay with weeks, so we'll call it 4 weeks. So they have 4 weeks to do that. Once they do that, again, there can continue to be negotiation through this process, and negotiation is generally slow because their attorney will send a correspondence to your attorney will communicate with you, get back to them, and it's a somewhat cumbersome process unless you're all in the same room. So those are some options to think about. You can have a settlement conference. These are all ways to facilitate the negotiation process. Settlement conference in person or via Zoom. You could also do what's called mediation. You've probably heard of that, where you're sitting in the same room with a neutral third party who's helping you work through it. You could also do just a in-person negotiation with your spouse at any time. Oftentimes, people see the cost of the divorce going up, and they say, hey, forget all this. Let's not pay the lawyers. Good idea, by the way. Let's just sit down and work this out and be done with it. And again, at any point, you two can sign your documents and be done with it. So let's say that we're not able to get there. The case has to proceed. What happens after the appearance and answer? Well, there's the exchange of financial affidavits. And we already talked about that, FAs as we call them in the biz. So exchange of financial affidavits. How long does this usually take? Well, technically speaking, the financial affidavit is due within a few weeks of the appearance and answer, but in practice, it usually takes about 2 months. So we'll say 8 weeks to get those financial affidavits done. It can be anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. I'm going to say 8 weeks to make things simple here. So after the financial affidavits are exchanged, that usually results in a period of negotiation, because the next step after the financial affidavit is going to be possibly discovery. So discovery. Why is there negotiation right here? Because discovery is expensive, and most people want to avoid the expense of discovery, rightly so. So their attorneys push them to possible settlement at this place. So we can see a spike in the chance of settlement at this point. But so judges will at this point give the parties 4 weeks to figure out whether or not this case is going to settle, and if not, there's an expectation and maybe a court order saying that they have to issue discovery. Discovery is the formal request for financial documentation from the other side. Short of the formal request, there's going to be an exchange of voluntary exchange in most cases of some financial documentation during this process before discovery. But discovery is the step that you have to go to as an attorney to keep pushing a case forward, to get all your ducks in a row and get prepared for a trial. Not that your case is necessarily going to go to trial, but that's the only direction that cases go, is towards trial, and then they settle 99 times out of 100 before trial. But regardless, that discovery step is going to be next. Now, how long does that step take? Well, it can be significant. It can be a significant step. So within this, let's talk about what's next here. So that'll give us a little groundwork to speak from, or a little foundational contextual place. What's after discovery? Pre-trial. Pre-trial is where your attorney and the other attorney will go into the judge's chambers and have an informal conference to talk about what the resolution of the case should be, and the judge will give recommendations for settlement. That can only occur in most cases when discovery is complete. So how long does discovery take? It can really take anywhere from about 2 to 8 months, depending on how complicated things are. Because what will happen within the discovery process is inevitably there'll be some non-compliance issues, meaning that one side is saying the other side didn't comply, or both sides are saying the other side didn't comply, and then you're filing motions, going back into court. You're really getting in the weeds at this point. The judge is fed up with you. The case is then continued for another 60 days and another 60 days, and the judge is saying come back, and finally the judge is holding a hearing. And then after the hearing, there's even more time. And it's a process that seems to go on and on and on. That's just the way it is. There's not really a great way to accelerate the discovery process. The best way is to get all your documentation in, and don't leave any stone turned over or turned, and just be as diligent as possible. But regardless, discovery is going to take that 2 to 8 months. Now, after pretrial, we'll keep things really simple here and just call this trial. And usually between pretrial and trial is going to be 4 to 8 months. And I realize I switched here from weeks to months. That's because things start to get really expanded. And what happens between pretrial and trial is any final discovery issues are resolved, any motions are resolved, any discovery depositions are usually taken during this time. So this is where you have to sit down for the other attorney to answer questions and vice versa. There may be motions filed here to reopen discovery. So at this point, there's a lot of litigation back and forth, going back into court, judges having hearings, judges continuing things, the attorneys kind of vying for position in the case, trying to create some leverage so there can be settlement. But all of this takes a long time because every court date is usually 30 to 45 to 60 days apart. So you can see that things really start to expand. Now, I haven't even talked about within this entire process the fact that there's going to be motions that are being filed, requests being made of the judge. You're going to have to go to court to maybe testify on little issues here and there. It's going to be stressful, and you're going to think, why isn't this over yet? Well, hopefully this diagram can give you an idea. And we haven't even really touched upon the custody issues. Now, the custody issues are a whole other can of worms. And what does that look like? Well, custody issues oftentimes revolve in this way. And I'll go over this relatively quickly here because I respect your time and I know that you've been watching this for a while. Custody issues, you usually in a contested case have a temporary hearing, and that's where temporary issues are decided. And that comes 3 to 4 months into the case. And you might have a temporary hearing if the case is going on, version 2, and that can be 3 to 4 months later. So you are coming back to the judge and saying there's more issues. You might have a GAL that's appointed, that's an attorney for the child or a child representative. They have to do an investigation. That can take 3 to 4 months. You can oftentimes see an expert get involved regarding custody, and they have to do a report, and that can take 3 to 4 months or even 6 months. And then this expert and the GAL have to be deposed if the case is going to be litigated, and that whole process can take 2 to 3 months. The months start to stack on pretty quickly here, and you start having a case that could be resolved in 2 to 3 months go to a year and a half, 2 years, and in extreme cases over 2 years that it'll take. That is the litigation process in a nutshell. There is a lot more aspects that can be added to this. I've tried to keep it as simple, believe it or not, as possible. But it is not a simple process. And that's why we always encourage our clients to try to resolve these things amicably. And sometimes, and this is where I said at the beginning of the video, you have to decide on if you're going to get the short end of the stick, or decide on the length of the stick, meaning you might take a hit financially. You might say, you know what, I want to move on with my life. And I honestly, this is a place of empowerment, and it takes some humility to do this. But you say, I want to move on with my life. My time in the next chapter is more important than X amount of dollars. It's more important than my ego in saying, well, I won this divorce. And you say, I'm just going to agree to less because my MO is not going to be fighting over this for the rest of my life or for the next 2-3 years. And oftentimes you look at the figures, you say, okay, a 2-3 year divorce can cost anywhere between, I would say, $30,000 $1,000 to $100,000 or more, it's not worth the fight when you look at, well, what is it going to cost to just get this done? Every case is different. There's always, there's not always something worth fighting for, but every person is different. So I'm just explaining to you oftentimes what the choice is. Good luck. This is not an easy process. If you have any questions, any comments, let us know below. We're more than happy to make more videos about this topic. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell, and thank you for watching.